Hello and welcome to Marketing Room 101, the podcast where I invite marketers to join me for a good old rant and I give them the chance to banish one thing from the industry forever. I'm your host, Ben Norman, Strategy Director at Principles, the agency that does unforgettable things for everyday brands. And this week I'm joined by my first guest from the Netherlands, the wonderfully talented and exceptionally sweary Arjen Klinkenberg, or Klink as he is known by his friends and podcast hosts. Now in 2005, Klink was asked by a friend of his to design the wrapper for a chocolate bar for a PR stunt. 10 minutes later, he'd created the Tony's Chocolonely wrapper we all recognise today. From that point, Klink stayed with Tony's for almost 20 years as creative director and brand guru, before setting up as a creative brand consultant earlier this year. I really enjoyed this chat. Klink is somehow both extremely passionate and incredibly laid back, and I think there's a lot in here that any brand looking to trouble the bigger players in their category can learn from. So here's my conversation with Arjen Klinkenberg. Klink, welcome to Marketing Room 101.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming in. So, Klink, now you're here inside Marketing Room 101. Could you please describe what it's like in here to our listeners?
Yeah, it's horrible. So we're in a big building, really tall, very corporate. We're in a quite big room. It's very well lit. There's a lot of people, all kind of similar desks. And everybody's running around and being very busy, having online meetings and not having a moment to discuss anything non-work related. Lunch is being eaten behind the desk. People work late. People look funny when you leave at 5:30. And it's very serious. Not a lot of smiling. There's no music going on. There's hardly any plans. And it's all people being very busy with being busy.
Sounds quite soulless, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not a very fun place to be. You make a lot of money and you get to do a lot of things like being in meetings and making decisions. But there's no working with your hands. There's no having a joke, talking about something not work related. And it's quite grown up as well.
So is this somewhere where you have experienced in the past? Have you worked anywhere like this before?
No, I've not, but I know that is the place where I don't want to end up.
Yeah. People talk about work-life balance. And I think people talk about work-life balance often in relation to the balance between the amount of time you spend at work or the amount of time you spend at home. But I think a more true work-life balance is I like my job enough to not feel like I have to shut it when I go home. But I also, maybe the more important thing is I have enough of a life that I feel like I can bring it into work with me. And I don't know, it's not like severance.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think what for me the value is to be with a group of people that you share some similar goal with and some similar kind of passion, and you're having a great time doing it. My work and my private, there's always been a blurry divide. I've very good friendships, long friendships with people I've worked with. I'm always the same person at work as I am private. And yeah, it's just having that feeling of being at home with the people that you work with just makes your work a lot more fun to do and also a lot more effective, I think. And it has to do, of course, with the kind of work that you do. So being a creative, it comes from within, so it's not like you get numbers in and you shuffle them around and you push something else out. It's like you have to constantly delve into yourself and work with what you have with your experience and your talents. So it's a hugely personal thing. And I think that having that work-life balance at work is very important to me. And so my nightmare would be a big corporate where you are not known for your name and what you do, but you're just sort of a cog in a bigger machine, nightmarish stuff.
I love that distinction because the best ideas always come from the least expected conversations or places, don't they? Like I will come up with ideas either when I'm not at work, when I'm on a run, when I'm in the shower, when I'm in the bath, when I'm cooking, whatever it might be. But also just when I'm talking to somebody over the desk about what I watched on TV last night, it might inspire a line of thinking in some way. And I think that's very hard to communicate to a very corporate organization, isn't it? That actually talking about a new Netflix series or talking about what I ate for tea, why that's going to help me contribute to coming up with a better idea. It's almost impossible to explain, but it's so true, right?
It is very true. Yeah. So I've not worked at Tony's for a couple of months now, but one thing that we did when we were a bit smaller, we were about 50 to 100 people, is we had a desk bingo. It's something that I came up with in order to make sure that team marketing doesn't sit together and team sales doesn't sit together and team finance doesn't sit together. because you can learn so much from sitting next to a finance guy on one side and a salesperson on the other side. So we used to do a bingo with a proper wheel and prizes, so you can win like a smoked ham or and get a new desk as well. So you would get every half year get a new desk, win something, sit next to somebody new, and get their ideas as well. I mean, everybody had an opinion about the designs that I did, and I think it's equally as important that people that work at Tony's have an opinion and can be heard. So it's necessary to be able to sit next to people and talk about stuff. Yeah.
Do you think that was one of the strengths at Tony's, that everybody had this shared sense of where we're going rather than things happening in silos?
I think it's a strength of almost every smaller company starting up. You know everybody's name, that you know that what everybody's doing. I mean, at the beginning at Tony's, everybody would pick up the phone, everybody would get lunch or set the table. If we needed to send a mailing out, everybody would get together after work and have a pizza and get stuff done. And that's a mentality that is, I think, prone to most startups. And when you reach a certain level, that gets lost. And I think that is inevitable. So as much as we try to hold on to it and to have certain rituals and traditions to make sure that we celebrate our culture. So culture within Tony's is very important still. It was inevitable that at a certain point, I introduced myself to the same Laura for 3 times. And that moment where you see somebody walking down the hall and you decide, no, well, I don't know who you are and I don't know what you do here, but fair play to you. Yeah, so that was sort of a pivoting point of being that scale-up startup with that mentality to becoming a proper company.
As we're sort of talking about Tony's, and you've been on other podcasts and you've talked a lot about Tony's, and I do want to ask you some bits on it, but I would also encourage, if people really want to hear about the work that you've done at Tony's, go and also listen to the other podcasts where you've talked about it in detail. But I want to just quickly touch on, so you created the Tony's brand, you were there at the very start, and you'd never designed packaging before. And you came up with the wrapper in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You then stayed with the company for nearly 20 years. So my question to you is, what were you doing for the other 19 years, 364 days, 23 hours and 50 minutes?
Good call. Yeah, I sometimes wonder about that myself. So Tony started as a joke, as a sort of a PR stunt. Like I said, designed the wrapper without a brief, without getting paid, and worked at the company ever since. And we launched one new flavor a year in the first years. And yeah, there weren't any big strides in the beginning. The thing with Tony's was that it's always been very clear that impact is first, and that becoming a bigger brand for becoming a bigger brand's sake was never in the cards. So everything went very slowly. It was just a case of, like we said, share our chocolate, share a story. So stuffing people's faces with chocolate and telling them our story whilst they chew. And that created such a organic growth of the brand with such a strong foundation that it became that love brand that people just knew about. And in the beginning, we didn't have a clue. It was just a bunch of people that wanted to change the world, not how to run a business. I was just a designer. My background was in magazine design. I didn't have a clue how to build a brand. So it was completely reverse engineered. And we just did what we thought worked well. And it turned out that it worked well. So being sole creative, or at least I think up to 10, 12 years with the company, and then having a first burnout and my manager saying, okay, we're going to get somebody in. And we got someone in, and then building that team, building that in-house creative team that is so rocking the brand at the moment. That is where it went. So very much from making stuff more to thinking about stuff. And I always wanted to have that balance of making stuff and getting stuff out there. I mean, Tony's is a very tangible brand. It's a very feely brand, the material, the product. So making stuff has always been a big part of what I wanted to do. But turns out that thinking about stuff is also something that I really enjoy. And having been there since the start, it became sort of an instinct. What is Tony's and what isn't Tony's, or what is only Tony's, as we say? Is it something that only Tony's could do? Then it's something that we want to put out. And we had the purple cow check. So if you kind of put a purple milk cow next to you, what you're working on right now, and it's not on brand, it can be better, it can be bolder, it can be funnier.
Love that.
And that's what I've done. So the last couple of years, focusing more on strategy, focusing more on building the team, helping the team, developing the creatives within the team, and then on actually making another flyer or another poster.
What I find really interesting about what you just said is a previous guest, Adam Morgan, wrote a book called Eating the Big Fish, kind of the definitive book on how to adopt a challenger brand mindset. And he talks about a really interesting concept called intelligent naivety. The idea that there can be power in not being weighed down by all of the knowledge that all the other brands have. And you've just mentioned, but actually, when you got started, you didn't really know what you were doing.
We didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
That is, I think, what made Tony's, that we didn't have a clue what to do. First of all, you're not going to call your chocolate brand Tony's Chocolonely. I mean, who can pronounce it? What kind of design do you need? You're going to ask somebody who's never made a packaging design before in his life to do a packaging. It's insane. So every business choice that we made at the beginning and every brand choice that we made was different than how people would work, what people would do. And we didn't do it by the books. And I think that is what made the start so defining for Tony's and has resulted in being a very unique brand with a very unique look and feel and a very unique company ethos as well.
But do you think that's the way that small brands can make an impact against the bigger challenges? Because I've heard you in the past talk about Oatly, I've heard you talk about Innocent, and I think Oatly didn't know the category conventions of milk. I guess Innocent didn't know much about soft drinks or much about drinks when they entered that market. Do you think that's one of the reasons why small brands are still able to disrupt much, much bigger competition?
Yeah, I think so. It's what I always say is that bold challenger attitude allows you to come up with a different answer to the same question that everybody's asking. So the approach is completely different. We wanted to end modern slavery and human trafficking in cocoa. We do that through a chocolate bar. So the approach is completely different than setting up a chocolate company. And that is the strength of innovative startup brands. You get to completely redesign it. If you're going to try and do what the big guys are doing, you're fucked. You need to do it in your own way. What is your own special addition to this problem? What is your unique solution? And I think that is the strength of startups. You can move fast, you're lean and mean.
Now, you touched on there about Tony's being an impact business that happens to sell chocolate, not the chocolate business that wants to make an impact. And I sort of wanted to briefly talk about brand purpose because it's a topic that sparks a lot of debate in the marketing world. And I think that's because it's very often either misused by brands or misinterpreted by marketers. But Tony's is undeniably a purpose-driven brand. And I think it's one of the modern great brand stories. So how much of Tony's success do you think is because people buy into the purpose of the brand? And how much do you think it is about people buying into the personality? What do you think the relationship is between the two of those?
Oh, they're undeniably connected. And the third one there is taste. So we've always had sort of three kind of people that buy into our mission. People buy in because it's just fucking good chocolate and because people really like the appearance of it. And the three can't do without each other. And I think that's the secret formula, the holy trinity, as I call it. People buy in because of different things, because it just makes sense. It's not a thing that has been conjured up by a group of marketeers trying to, okay, so now we're going to crack the chocolate industry. We have a little impact thingy. So people that want purpose-driven brands, they can buy into that. We're going to have slick design. So people that like slick design get into that. It's just sort of all come together. And it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of luck as well. And people in the industry, wanting to give us a break as well, seeing what we did and what we're doing and wanting to support that, definitely.
In what you've just said there, I guess there's a spirit of no compromise is what hits me when you're talking about Tony's there, because it's like you've not created a chocolate bar and then you're giving a little bit of your proceeds to try and make people think that you're not so bad to the world, or it's fair trade, so that's okay, or you've got a cheap chocolate bar, but you've got a quality claim somewhere. You're not doing that, are you? You're going, we are 100% behind trying to have an impact positively in the slavery that surrounds the cocoa industry. We're 100% behind taste, and we're going to 100% buy into this brave personality that we've created, this fun personality. Yeah. And it's like, why do you have to choose somewhere in the middle? Nothing that you've done is a 6 out of 10 there, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always been very clear. And although with becoming a bigger company, choices have to be made, but the brand personality, the purpose-driven company design, and the development of great tasting chocolate has always been the most important thing there.
Yeah. Okay, so I touched on earlier, you spent 20 years nearly at Tony's, and earlier this year you left. So what are you doing now?
So I wanted to take 3 months off, first of all, to sort of detox and step out of that red bubble, as we say, and wanted to think about what am I going to do? So I can either go agency side, I can maybe go to another brand, I can do freelancing work, no idea. And then I got pulled into a project as a freelancer, very cool project in the center of Amsterdam. And the decision was made for me. And I've always been sort of scared to make that jump as a freelancer. I wanted to do illustration when I went to art college, but I did graphic design. Then when everybody graduated, I went to work with a studio because, the certainty of work. So that's the first time that I sort of on my own legs, and it's a lot less scary than I was afraid it was going to be. But I'm sort of redefining myself as a brand builder, as an impact brand builder. I've always had projects next to working at Tony's in the weekends and in the evenings, working on smaller brands, smaller companies, smaller startups that can benefit from the experience that I have. So I've always done sort of these side projects, and that is what I'm doing now, and absolutely loving it. I always wondered when I was working at Tony's, what have I actually learned? I was never educated as a creative director, so I sort of rolled into it, started as a designer at Tony's, and then sort of rebaptized the design team that we had to the creative team, because I thought, design is what you do at the end to make stuff look pretty. But we do everything. So we sit there with people that develop flavors, and we make choices on creative, on brand level. So we do the whole thing. And that is absolutely what I like doing. So now doing both, feels very promising.
So you are here because you would like to banish something from the marketing world. Can you please tell me what you would like to banish?
If there's a button that I can push that we can get rid of all the shelf wobblers in supermarkets, I would push it faster than the speed of light. Nasty little fuckers, like walking around the supermarket and just want to get my groceries and get stuff done, go home, eat my shit, start my life again. And they're all up in your face. Like, leave me alone. Like, what are you wobbling about? Even the movement and even the term wobbler. I mean, it's just the marketeer that came up with that, with the first wobbler, should be like executed or something. And I've always hated them. Ask anyone from the Tony's crew about my opinion on wobblers, and they absolutely know what I'm talking about. I think it's the sort of the marketing equivalent of having on a beautiful summer's day, having a wasp flying in your face all the fucking time and not being able to squat it. That's the wobbler. Yeah, definitely getting rid of those things.
I love that. I might be overanalyzing what you're saying here, because I love the simplicity of just fuck wobblers. What are you even wobbling about? Might be my favourite quote from this podcast. Yeah. But I saw something earlier this year where, I won't say it because I'll get sued. I'll just say one of the fast fashion brands put a big screen on the side of a boat with an ad. I don't know if you saw this. While people were on the beach, they were sipping a pina colada, they were making sandcastles. This boat was going past the horizon with a big ad promoting fast fashion. And I just thought, maybe that's the same as what you're saying with wobblers. The desperate attack of people with advertising, or the desperate attack with a brand message, rather than the allure or the attraction of something done well.
Yeah, so the last year I've been involved in a lot of retail media workshops, and I think retail media is very interesting. It's developing very fast, but there's some sort of logic to it. So you walk outside, there's more generic brand messaging, and when you get closer to the shelf, it becomes more focused on product. I mean, there's sort of a logic to it. And of course, supermarket chains, they're all very helpful in wanting to promote this and use and develop new stuff. But as a consumer, I want to be taken seriously. I want you as a brand to take me seriously. So stuff that taste now, buy now. I don't believe that you take me seriously as a person that pays your shit, buys your crap. So I want a brand, and I always try to do that with Tony's, and I think that Oatly does that very well, Innocent does that very well, and there's a lot of brands that do that very well. I want you to feel who I am and see what I need. And if I don't want to buy something, that's fine. But I want you to add something to my experience. I want you to give me something that I didn't know that I needed. So I don't drink Oatly. I think it's vile. I'm a big cow milk fan, but I love the brand. And when I go to supermarket, I always look at what is Oatly doing right now. And it always makes me smile. And I would rather have somebody not buying my product, but walk away with me, with my brand in their head, than buy the product and not really know what they're seeing. And I think that wobblers and most of the way retail media is used in a very traditional way, it doesn't do that for me. So I think there's lots to be gained there. And for me, I pick wobblers because, they're the easiest to pick on. But I mean, they are sort of the personalization of what I think is very bad about brand communication as a whole. Yeah. And the only thing that I forgot to do when I left Tony's was to have a wobbler depreciation corner with a little thing of me going crossed arms. Thinking about wobbler? Klink says no.
I think we need to get you on a wobbler. I think that's it. We need the Klink wobbler.
I'll go like this.
Yeah, exactly. Just wobbling around the place. Yeah, something that you'd said there about, it's almost don't insult your audience. Like if you do a good enough job, you don't need to insult your audience. And I can't remember who, it might have been David Ogilvy or one of the old greats, who had said, the consumer isn't an idiot, she is your wife. Correct that for these days. The consumer isn't an idiot, they're your partner. You don't have to telling someone buy now on a wobbler or telling somebody this tastes good. It's like, oh shit, I forgot what I was in here to do. All right, now I'm going to buy it. Because if you hadn't told me to buy it, I would have never thought that I was here to buy something.
Exactly. You're so convincing. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And for the amount of money that every brand spends yearly on wobblers, I mean, you can do such great things. I mean, one of the examples that I always, in my retail media talks, that I always talk about is that Oatly Germany wanting a new shelf wobbler to increase sales. And the creative directors were like, why? Why do you need a wobbler? So you have a question and you think a wobbler is the answer, but we think it's not. So what we think you need are pyramids built from Oatly packaging, the 3x3x3 meters in all Edeka's supermarket in Hamburg. And we're going to create a bus tour with merchandise and maps and t-shirts to help people go around to see these 9 wonders of the world. And that's actually what you need. And I love that attitude. That's what I've done at Tony's all the time as well. And what I'm still doing now is asking that question, why? You think you have the answer, but by asking why, I get to the core of your question, so the question behind the question. And I think that any brand, but especially purpose-driven brand, owes it to their audience to come up with a different answer to that question.
Do you think part of it's laziness or maybe lack of such a, we talked earlier about, you've got a purpose, you've got a personality, you know how to, as a brand, attack every scenario because you just do it as Tony's would, do it as Oatly would, do it as Innocent would. But without that, you end up with wobblers.
I think a lot of people are doing stuff that they've been used to doing. I think a lot of people do stuff because they think that that is what people expect and even what customers expect. So, I mean, repeating your key visual in your out of home and your in-store material, that is not the same thing. It's a different medium. It's a different atmosphere, a different person in a different mood. I don't think it's really laziness because people are working really hard. I think it's just they don't have a clue. They don't know that it can be something different and it can be something to enrich your life. And I think that these smaller brands that have popped up in the last 15 years are showing that it can be done differently. I mean, the first time that I saw Innocent was, I think it was 2010 in the UK. Didn't have it in the Netherlands just yet. And it just stopped me in my tracks. It just made me smile so much. Carton had a picture of a penguin on the side. You would use that much of your packaging to have something that doesn't do anything for your product, but there's loads for your brand. And it just, I thought it was amazing. So Nick that, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, genius of steel, don't they? So it's, now I'm convinced I'm going to take, and I do quite a lot of shopper communications work with clients, but I have to say wobblers are never at the top of the list. So I think I can genuinely say I agree with you, and I can genuinely say let's banish that. So I'm going to take wobblers away and I'm going to lock them in here. So now you'll be able to walk down a supermarket and nothing's going to wobble.
Oh, lovely.
Brilliant. Right, big smile on your face. That's good. Now, while you're here, is there anything you want to bring back to the marketing world and return?
Yeah, so I think what for me it has everything to do with experience. So relevancy for the customer and experience is everything that you can bring to someone. And what I love, but I'm not sure if it's gone though. Actually, I was thinking about this, but what I used to love was when you get the chewing gum and you would open it and it had a little comic strip on the inside that was wrapped around it. And that just made it, you nearly got it for that comic strip, to read that comic strip. And it wasn't advertised. It wasn't a rage or a hype. It was just there, and it was always there. And it was sort of an uncertainty. And you know that the gum was okay, but the comic strip just made it into an experience. So if they're gone, then I'd like those back, please. Yeah.
I don't know them, but maybe my equivalent would be, we used to have bubble gum in the UK where you would get a small temporary tattoo.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, do you think the point here is kind of just brands believing in a bit of nonsense and a bit of novelty?
Yeah, it's like it doesn't add anything to your product, doesn't increase sales in that much at that moment, but it does so much more for the experience and therefore for the brand, that I think that's really valuable. So adding stuff to it, like the Innocent guys, Dan Germain did it, put something on the bottom of their bottles. And he told me, as I met him a couple of times, and he told me they noticed that there was stuff underneath, and they asked the guy that produced them, I just see there's letters and stuff underneath. Can we put text there? No, you can't. It's a mold, so it has text there, so we can put a text there. Yeah, you could put a text there. Why would you want to put a text there? Nobody ever looks there. So why do you want to use that? Well, we think it's funny. And I put the stop looking at my bottom text there, the first one. And
brilliant.
It's just these small things that don't add anything. It costs money to do, but it becomes this huge piece of experience that you have with the brand. And I think that kind of stuff is golden. But with Tony's as well, is to have hidden little stuff, little jokes that you don't see, like the washing label in a t-shirt. So I have a little joke there. So you don't see it, but if you see it, then it's especially for you, nobody else. It's especially for you at that precise moment, having bought it, having owned that t-shirt for 5 years, and now only seeing that creates so much value in the brand experience.
Yeah, I did a recent episode where I talked a lot about chocolate, and then out of that came a conversation about the Penguin Bar. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Penguin Bar.
No, I'm not.
Maybe it's a British thing, I don't know, but it's just a biscuit wrapped in chocolate. But if you say Penguin Bar to anybody in the UK now, the first thing they will say is they're the ones with the joke on the back.
All right.
And just on every bar, you flipped over the label and there was a joke. I think what made it great is the joke was always so bad. But that's what people know. Like, people don't remember the chocolate. People don't remember it as being, whether it was their favorite bar, whether it was quality, whether it was like they were really average. But people remember it as being the one that had the crap joke on the back. I suppose a bigger brand recently that's, in my opinion, made a massive mistake. I don't know the commercials, so they might tell me I'm completely wrong. But San Pellegrino removing the foil from the lid of the can.
Yeah.
And that's just a small thing, but there's something about removing that little foil lid that is part of the experience.
Definitely. Yeah, it shouldn't do that. These kind of things, this is the heritage of your product, of your brand, people interacting with your product. You should never touch that. You can work with it, but never remove these kind of things.
But you might be able to save half a cent, half a pence off the price of each can.
You can sort of hear the discussion between the brand manager and the product manager and everything. But still, it's half a cent per can. Okay, we're going to go for it.
Yeah, you must have had this conversation at some point at Tony's about the unevenly divided bar.
Yeah.
Did you ever have to defend that? Did you ever consider going away from that, or was it always just we're so committed to that part of the brand?
Yeah, no. I think it was in 2012 that we introduced it, and it was just, this is what we're going to do. And we weren't expecting it, but people kept phoning us and sending us emails on a daily basis asking, okay, so I have 2 kids and I have to give the one kid a big piece and the other kid a smaller piece, and that's unfair. And we said, well, yes,
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Well done. And that is what we kept doing. The funny thing is that it became such part of our DNA. So if you're looking at the brand framework of Tony's, equality is the brand essence. So any choice that we would make from a brand perspective would be around equality. Thus, the bar being unequally divided. But also, when we made our first advent calendar, it was only logical that one day would not have a chocolate in there because inequality, equality, unequally divided. And then the next day would have two, but we wanted to make the point because we are a purpose-driven brand. We are not a chocolate brand that wants to, talk about equality. No, we talk about equality through chocolate. And it was especially in the UK that it got a lot of backlash. I mean, in the Netherlands, advent calendars are not really a tradition, but obviously in the UK they are. So legendary day 8 had one missing, and children were in tears and parents were outraged about this having not a piece of chocolate on that specific day, which baffled me in ways. And there were also some sadder stories about neurodivergent children who did have a lot of problem with it. I understand that. So, it makes us conscious of these things as a brand, which is a good thing as well. But it wasn't for a moment that we thought we shouldn't do it. So we now still have it. I think now it's day 13. And we have a little disclaimer, a little warning going on there. But any way, any moment, everything that we can use to convey the story, we will use.
Okay, so I want to give you this back, but I don't know if it's best to give you back the idea or the specific thing. Do you want me to give you back bubblegum wrapped in comic strips, or maybe the power of novelty?
Yeah, I would go for the latter, definitely.
So let's say we're giving you back belief in novelty, and brands are going to start just doing things that's a bit of novelty, a bit of nonsense, a bit of fun again.
Yeah, if you are a disruptive or a challenger brand, be that on every level in your product, in your packaging, and in your communication as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, finding those opportunities that aren't being used by the big guys, right?
Yeah, and kick them in the fucking shins.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. That's one of the most useful things I think anybody's ever got out of this podcast. So I thank you for that. Now,
yes.
Okay, so before you go, I have one last question for you, and that is my brother's question. Each week, my brother, who doesn't work in the industry, thinks of a question for my guest. And this week, he wanted to ask you, Klink, firstly, I want to thank you for all your hard work making Tony's the giveaway chocolate of choice at corporate events. I've managed to eat it and gift it for years without ever actually having to pay for it.
Nice one.
So he's done quite well there. In a previous podcast, you talk about having a say in where you see the brand and where you don't see the brand. So in your time at Tony's, what would have been your dream place to see Tony's turn up? And what would have been your nightmare place to see Tony's?
Right. Okay. Well, I think that I know that the place that I wanted Tony's to turn up as like my favorite place actually happened. So when I met Dan Germain, former brand manager from Innocent, he said, I bought it and I had it on my desk for years without touching it just because I love the design. So for me, that is
excellent.
Excellent. Definitely excellent. The place where I wouldn't want Tony's to be, and then probably as a product, I think I always said that today's wrapper is tomorrow's Kitty Beck liner. So, people love it, but it's also a product that you use. So having the idea that we create something very arty that should be desired and stuff, yes and no. But I think the value of the product, the value of chocolate, I think is very important. It's not something that we need. So it's a luxury thing. But I think that the last place that I would want Tony's to see is in cheaper supermarkets or on a discount kind of shelf, because I think that then the messaging behind what we tried to do for 20 years is that make people aware of what chocolate actually is, where it comes from, and what problems surround it is then lost.
I love that. So it's not that it's just a financial luxury. It should be a luxury because we shouldn't be over consuming this product.
Exactly.
So how can people get in touch with you if they want to work with you, if they want to give you a brief for 10 minutes to come up with a packaging design for them?
I know that's going to bite me in the ass sometime. But you did a Tony's design in 10 minutes. Why do you need 36 hours to do this? Yeah. Working on my website. It will be live in the coming weeks. You can find me at yyy.nl. But in the meantime, I'll be on LinkedIn. My name is Arjen Klinkenberg, which you will probably not remember. So if you look for Tony's and Klink, you can find me as well. That guy that built that Tony's brand. That is my handle at the moment.
Brilliant. Klink, thank you very much for coming in. I've enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So that was my conversation in Marketing Room 101 with Arjen Klinkenberg. Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed it as much as I did, I'd love it if you could please share it with just one other person you think would like it too. And if you've done anything recently you feel guilty about, for example, if you opened a random day of your child's advent calendar, stole the chocolate, closed the door, and then pretended it was a statement about the unfairness of the cocoa industry when they discovered it, then you can cancel out that bad karma in just 30 seconds by giving Marketing Room 101 a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. And finally, if you'd like to arrange a free chat about how I and the Principles team can help grow your brand, just find me on LinkedIn under my name, Ben Norman. And if you'd like to know more about Principles, just head to principlesagency.co.uk.